good day and welcome to Lena Media TV News. I am Victoria broadcasting from Canada and these are the top stories for today news. Somalia intelligence says Al-Shabab plans to target president and prime minister. Right groups accuse Ethiopian regional forces of ethnic cleansing in Tigray. Western leaders to impose further sanctions on Russia. Bringing you this in detail after the short break. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back from that short break. Now news in detail. Al-Shabab and Al-Qaeda linked armed group plans to target Somalia President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed and Prime Minister Mohamed Hassan Robil, the country's intelligence agency warned on Tuesday. Violence by the group, which aims to topple the UN-backed central government and impose its own headline version of Islamic law, has been an impediment to the parliamentary election taking place since November. They informed the key government officials of a plot in which Al-Shabab mafia want to target the president and prime minister. The National Intelligence and Security Agency said on Twitter, Mohammed Maha, senior Al-Shabab member, is conducting the plot. Spokesperson at the office of President Mohammed and Prime Minister Robil were not immediately available to comment. Al-Shabab spokespeople were not immediately available to comment. The group frequently attacked civilians and government officials and installations. In February, it attacked election delegates in the capital, Mogadishu. The delegates were unharmed, but 6 bystanders were killed. Late last month, Al-Shabab killed 48 people in Belewin, about 300 kilometers north of Mogadishu, including traders, clerics, officials, and civilians. Among those killed was Amina Mohammed Akhtar, a lawmaker and vocal critic of the government on the eve of her expected re-election. Moving on to the next story, right groups accuse Ethiopian regional forces of ethnic cleansing in Tigray. Addis Ababa, April 6th, 2 leading human rights groups on Wednesday accused armed forces from Ethiopian Amhara region of waging a campaign of ethnic cleansing against ethnic Tigrays during war that has killed thousands of civilians and displaced more than 1 million. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch said in a joint report that abuses by Amhara officials and regional special forces and militants during fighting in Western Tigray amounted to war crimes and crimes against humanity. They also accuse Ethiopian military of complicity in those acts. Since November 2020, Amhara officials and security forces have engaged in a reluctant campaign of ethnic cleansing to force Tigrays in Western Tigray from their homes, said Kenneth, both executive director of Human Rights Watch. Amhara government spokesman Gizachi Mulun told Reuters the allegation of abuses and ethnic cleansing in the Western Tigray were lies and fabricated news. Ethiopian government and military spokespeople, the former commander of Amhara Special Forces and administrator of Western Tigray, did not immediately respond to the request for comment. Amnesty and HRW said Tigrayan forces also committed abuses during the 7th-month war, but that this was not the focus of the report. The report, which is based on 427 interviews with survivors, families, members, and witnesses, is the most comprehensive assessment to date of abuses during the war in Western Tigray. Western Tigray has seen some of the worst violence in the war, which has pitted Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed government and its allies from the Amhara region against the Tigray People Liberation Front, the TPLF dominated Ethiopian government before Abiy's rise to power in 2018. Both Amhara and Tigray claim the area, which is controlled by Amhara forces and the Ethiopian military. Besides separated massacres, the report cited meetings in which Amhara officials discussed plans to remove Tigrays and restrictions they impose on the Tigrayan language, evidence of ethnic cleansing. Federal authorities failed to investigate the allegation of ethnic cleansing, while the National Army committed murder, arbitrary arrest and detention, and torture against the Tigrayan population, the report said. The Amhara government spokesperson Gizachi said regional forces had always respected the rule of law. Reuters could not independently verify details in the report. The news agency has previously reported about massacres committed by Amhara and Tigray forces in Western Tigray. In March of last year, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken accused forces from Amhara of committing an act of ethnic cleansing. Moving on to the next story, Western leaders to impose further sanctions on Russia. Western leaders are set to announce a further set of sanctions against Russia on Wednesday, the U.S. said. White House Press Secretary Joe Psaki said the measures will target Russian financial and state-owned bodies as well as some officials and audits. Ms. Psaki said the move would hold accountable the Russian kleptocracy that funds and supports Putin's war. Calls for further sanctions have grown in recent days amid allegations of Russian atrocities in Baku. The town mayor told the BBC on Tuesday night that Russian forces has killed around 320 civilians during the occupation of the town, while the discovery of mass graves has caused outrage in western capitals. Ms. Psaki told reporters during a news conference in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday that the sanctions, which are expected to include a ban on all new investment in Russia, would degrade key instruments of Russian state power, impose acute and immediate economic harm on Russia. The Wall Street Journal said on Tuesday that the Al-Shabab, Russia's largest leader, may be among those targeted. She added that the sanction will be taken in coordination with the EU and other G7 nations. In coordination with the G7 and the EU, an additional sweeping package of sanctions measures that will impose costs on Russia to send it further down the road of economic, financial, and technological isolation. Ms. Psaki said on Tuesday the European Commission proposed broad new sanctions on Russia, including a potential ban on the import of Russian coal and additional measures targeting state-owned businesses and officials and out in Moscow. The proposed ban on Russian coal, which must be agreed by all 27 member states, would mark the first time the EU was blocked import of Russian energy. The bloc buys around 4 billion worth of coal from Moscow every year. Some member states, including Germany, are heavily reliant on Russian energy, have been reluctant to directly target the sector. But sentiment appeared to change after evidence of Russian war crimes emerged, with French President Emmanuel Macron joining calls for a ban earlier this week. This is where I end the news on Alena Media TV. I am Victoria, and thanks for watching.